existed. We've only existed in his faith. You understand that? You know, we haven't been seen, and we existed, and so he had, for the faith, that he bring us into being. He had the faith, you know, and all his faith is in himself, you know, but justly so. And anyway, God walked this out by faith, and now we walk it out by faith. And in the end, as we seen last night, the reward of faithfulness is we'll all be together with God, in God, God in us. And it's kind of a sweet picture with all of our eyes have been dried, no more tears, God himself. And it's really neat how John puts that. He says, and God himself will dry every eye, and there'll be no more tears. You know, and so, you know, God's taken that very personal and very intimate to dry your eyes, you know, and that's just really, really touching. There's a rock and roll song that has a line in it, just a line, that's about all I remember of it, but it really did touch my heart, and it says, dry your eyes now. You can dry your eyes now. And, you know, and it kind of, through the pain and suffering and the unbelief of this world, going through faith and faithfulness, we can dry our eyes now. And Sunday, I'm going to really try to come back. I do believe as the Spirit has really pressed me today and has really laid on my heart to try to come back in and show us, you know, kind of another aspect of how finished everything really is. And that in fact, that's the way we need to live. So it's going to be pretty sweet. Terminology such as this, it says, I am the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end. And anyway, so you kind of get that idea. If he's the beginning and the end, he's everything in between. And then in particularly, so then he says, and it is done. And it is done. And, you know, right before there, he said he's going to dry our eyes. He's going to do all these marvelous things. There'll be no more sorrow, no more death, no more pain, no kind of form, shape of tribulation at all. And, you know, and then he enters us. We get to enter, you know, where you see that magnificent. And he says, and it is done. So anyway, I got to stop there. I'll start preaching Sunday sermon already. But I'm just so excited that it is done. And it kind of shows us about faith, you know, how real is it that it's done? It's really already done. And so if you really start catching the reality of it, you can dry your eyes too. And make a cry about it. Amen. Okay, very good. Guys, we're talking about preaching the gospel, and well, that's where it's at. In all honesty, until a person really comes to a reality of what Christ has done for them, and literally, probably, honestly, there has to be an understanding that God really doesn't hate them, that he really loves them, but he is demanding one thing, and that's to come to his son. And we need to be a lot stronger in our church about this. God has made a demand. It's not a question, nothing else. And he really changed it. At one time, he says he winked. That means foolishness. And, you know, just honest as being stupid, not believing anything, living our own lives, you know, doing our own thing, filling our own desires and so forth. There's a time that he kind of shrug his shoulders or giggle even at it. Saying, boy, you guys are stupid. You know, just, you know, and he kind of shrugged it off. But he says now, in these last days, and what changed everything, and it become last days. And by the way, John says in these last days, over and over, he said, right now is these last days. So the last days, don't think that's sometime way out there. Last day began when Jesus had resurrected from the dead. When his resurrection, that set in turn what is known as these last days. It's these last days. And so we're in this cycle of things. We're in these last days.
Like after the work is finished.
Yes, yeah, well, that's what it is. The work is finished. And if you notice then, what I see the Holy Spirit really doing with us right now, he's doing it in me, and has been, is really bringing this finished work to light. and not only just to light or to understanding or to a knowledge, but that we live it that way. And if you really lived it that way, it'll prepare us for rejection. It's going to, and guys, by the way, when you tell somebody about Jesus and they scoff at you, it doesn't make you feel real good, does it? But you know, one day, you know, that won't even matter because it's done. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, when it's really done, it ain't nothing to do with you. If they scoff at you, God still loves you, you know? And he didn't scoff at you, he saved you. You know, and if there's anybody he should have scoffed at, it was me. You know, and they just turn around and love me even more. And if he loved me that way, I can't help but love him that way. And then from that love, that's where everything gets done. Yeah, guys, and that's really big for our understanding. It's from that love relationship. And that's something that we really missed a lot. We knew what we ought to do. Michelle knows this. At times we literally knew what we ought to do, needed to do, but honestly, we didn't have the real power of the source behind it that really gets it done. We'd get up and we couldn't go do it, and that fell in line with a lot of wonderful things. There's nothing wrong with doing those things. As a matter of fact, it was to be done, but we missed the spirit of it, is really what it is. It's really the spirit of it. And God is spirit. And guess what's another synonym for spirit? God is what? Love. So God is spirit, and what would that mean? Raise your hand. Somebody tell me, what does that mean? My theologians and teachers raises their hands. I want others to participate, though. Raise your hands. What would it mean, Felicia? He's grinning and acting like he's trying to hide, so I'm following you. Huh? Okay, what is, he is spirit. What does that mean? I mean, really, you know, that's a real statement. He says, God is spirit. And then he goes on and breathes. God is love. And the word is agape, you know, I mean, on the Latin. But first he says, God is spirit. So, pardon me, is spirit, period. Or exclamation mark. God is spirit. So what did he just say God is? Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. Rosemary, was that you? No. Okay. You bet. What that means is God is unseen. But what is it just that? Huh? Go ahead.
Spirit.
Okay, God is spirit. So what is spirit? No, wait, he'll go to God is love, but first let's just identify, guys, I'm just asking us to really identify the spirit. Identify what is spirit. What is spirit? Michelle? Okay, yes, it's very eternal, but why? We're really on it. God is. You guys gonna make me cry. Okay, Jason, go ahead.
Real, he's unseen.
Okay, thank you. He's unseen, but he's what's real. It's more than just real, but he is what's real. What's the difference between he's real and he's what's real? What's the difference between that? Clint?
A lot of the things that we consider real aren't. It's just physical, what we see.
Okay.
We consider that as real, but it's going to all be dissolved away. It's not even real.
Okay, that's very true. Okay. Okay, Debbie?
So you're saying, what's the difference between what's real, when we say what is real and he is real? So it's like some things that are real, he created all things, he is what he is.
Okay. All right. Have you ever heard of the proof of, or the evidence of the Spirit? You're kidding me. You have to. You just didn't catch it, I guess. Okay. Evidence, proof. Come back to faith. Faith has what? What does faith always have?
Substance.
Okay, yes, it's a real substance, it's like the Holy Spirit, unseen, but very real. Reality, yeah, real. Okay, again?
Faith has fruit.
Okay,
Has
evidence, thank you, that's what I was trying to hold Hebrews 11 there, Roger's been pounding that on Tuesday night. But faith, faith always has evidence. So let's kind of go back to God. His first said is God is spirit. So what is one thing about the spirit? Let's just walk this through. Let's be a little theological, okay? Be a little airy here in a moment. But here's what the Bible says. So we're only taking what God has breathed. We're looking at what God has breathed. And we're discovering that what God says of himself is that he is first spirit. All right? So what he said, it says, I'm what's unseen. I'm unseen, but what's real. He's what's really real. And then I think what Debbie added in there, anything else that is or ever existed and everything came from what's real. So anything else that's really real came from God. But God's the one that's real. Everybody got that? Now, but how do you know he's real? What would be the evidence of him being real? No, wait, okay, okay, it would be, Debbie, but no, let's just stay with John. God is spirit. God is love. And if you ain't careful, what you're almost seeing is that God is this, in this category. Then we have a whole different category that he's this over here. Right? Can that be? Okay, but that's really not the case. What he's told you is God is spirit. What's spirit again? Unseen, but what? But what's real? What's real? He's real. Okay? Now he goes on. Now you got that? He's unseen, but what's real? Anything else that's real comes from God. Because he's the substance, the essence, the substance of what's real. Amen? See, one day you're going to be dead. Somebody might find your bones, or might find some worms that feasted on you. It was like a corpse of a body. You know? But they ain't going to find you no more. Right? Well, where'd you go?
Heaven.
Well, you bet. Gloria's going to heaven. I love her. She's always going. And I love that. But in all honesty, where'd they go? Was they ever there? Why do you know? How do you know? What would you know? Say, well, I found a bone. Maybe, right? Well, it might be a little evidence. Right? Might help a little bit. But how would you ever know? Are you thinking? If your mind's kind of spinning some wheels, that's good. Okay? I'm just wanting you to really, think about the essence, substance, what's real, and then what I'm really working at is how do you know it's real? See, there's a way you know that God is really real. He said it himself. Yeah, well, yes, and I appreciate that, Gloria. And boy, there's a sense you can call it blind faith, but if God said it, we're going to walk this out, and that pays off. You'll get to heaven there. You know that? If you live it like that, you'll get to heaven. You might have a rough time getting there, though. You'll go through a lot of things that you might not have needed to if you just kind of understood that there is evidence to who God is. God is spirit, and how do you know spirit? How do you see the evidence? What's the evidence of God's spirit?
Word.
Okay, and yes, he could be if the evidence is there. No, girls, now slow down, you're just saying it. Now think what you just said. You said she really said it. Think of what he said. God is, no, spirit, unseen, but real. And so the question comes up, how do you know that's real? God is love. So what's the evidence of knowing what's unseen?
Words.
Love. Love. Now I got a mystery for you. Let's take another step. You guys want to go deeper? A little deeper? Amen. No. Huh? Nothing? Okay. Okay, interesting. Ray, interested in anything you want to say? Yes, sir.
No, you got it perfect.
He got it perfect. Well, great, Carlos. Why didn't you share it with us, huh? You know? Oh, he didn't read his notes yet. No, that's great. You bet. Yeah, God is love. Now I've got one for you. What is love? Hmm. Okay. That's loving. Maybe action. Action. Doing whatever it takes that gets you to heaven. Or someone else to heaven. But what is love? No, yeah, have you ever noticed this? No, I'm gonna just relax, guys, okay? just relax. Have you ever think, if you're really thinking through it, you turn to someone and say, I love you. What, Willie? Is that you? Okay. There's a lot of finger pointing going on back here. Willie now's confessing they're having fun. So, we'll leave it at that. Talk about indulge that mystery back there. But yeah, God is spirit and God is love. And I just really wanted to challenge your thinking because, guys, we say this all the time, but really, what is love? And you're really kind of digging around that, but really, what is love? I mean, we say it so easily oftentimes, but we never even think that, man, you said something that God is. You said the substance that God is. Do you see? So you invoked a mighty heavy topic here when you said, I love you. And if you really, I guess there's no need for if and really, but when you say, I love you, what do you really mean? What is loving you? Okay, we got a little feelings here. We got some care back here. Sammy?
Action word.
Okay. Okay. Okay, acting out. Yes, it is. Yes, it would be very much a part of the human senses. It's whole intimacy, though, is from the soul. It all comes out of the soul. And remember, where did the soul come from? Remember the first premise that we talked about? God is what's real, and everything that exists from that's real. Anything that exists that's real came from who? God. Have you ever noticed your body? How did God get a body going? No. First. How did he get it? We got to get a body first before we can breathe in it. Thank you. Birth says he made it out of clay, molded. Molded is a real, the technical term from the Hebrew language, and it gives us an idea as if God took clay and, maybe, I don't know, and it's pretty fitting, wouldn't it? And he molded, and in all honesty, I think it's you think of all the things that's been and created and everything else, you'd have to admit the human body's amazing. Just the brain, all the functions of what's called that muscle up there between our ears is an amazing muscle that God molded. And the idea that nothing about it exists except without his hand molding it. But you take all that, it's still just a molded creation. Can you see? It's really a substance of nothingness. And what a substance is substance that God created in the first place. That called into existence, I can say, or spoke into existence, that his spirit moved across and coming from those words that he spoke. Can you say, why would this be important, talking about outreach, talking about talking to someone else? Why would any of this be important? Just the line that I just used, have you ever thought about that? That God spoke and all of a sudden there was something happened? That literally, no, his word or his spirit moved upon the face of the waters, didn't you say? And it moved only after he spoke. And his word and the spirit are one. So when the word is spoken, God is what? Spirit. And God, when he spoke, in the word, what's in the word? The spirit, and the word is one. And so when he spoke, his word went out over the face of the waters and formed and molded what came into being the earth and the universes and everything that exists. Okay, what would that tell you about evangelism? What should that tell you? Go ahead, Monique.
Just that we're gonna have to speak God's word in order for his spirit to be revealed to others.
Okay, all right. Let's take another step. We got a body, okay? We're kind of leaving God love and God is spirit, but it's really all connected. We got a physical body that God molded. Then the next thing it says that we were all living souls that is in the express image of God himself. And that's something. And he says that God breathed. And all of our souls was breathed into Adam. And Adam became our first representative. He represented all of us before God. Okay? And ever how Adam goes, so we go. Okay? And ever how he went, you'd have went the same way if you was him. Okay, but it's a hard thing to keep remembering, you know. Because we know he didn't exactly go the right way, did he? Yeah, he did. And then you can really say, yes, he did, because he actually fulfills God's very plan and purpose, that we not only be this created being in a body, but that in fact we be eternally made sons of God, joint heirs with Christ, inheritors of everything Christ has. So let's kind of back up here. We got this ledged out here. God is spirit. God is love. I raised the question, what is the purpose or the point behind God speaking? Monique comes back and says, well, God is in his word, so the word needs to be spoken to people. That's the point behind evangelism, right? Why does the word need to be spoken to people then? Okay, how can it save them, Pat? Oh, okay. Okay, I think this is what we need to see. Look how God created the world, right? Okay, Debbie?
The words need to be spoken so that the Spirit of God can move in the hearts.
Okay, and how does it move again? I'm working this back to Romans 10, guys. How does it move? Okay, word, so the Spirit and the Word is one, and it has to be the words of God. You know, my philosophy won't get it. Somebody else's words won't get it. But words of God that he's in. He's in those words. When he's spoken, he penetrates the ear with words. And you see, then he strikes the mind, which is a sensual part that came from God. But what's wrong with the mind? There's something very wrong with everybody's mind. Did you know you're the only one not crazy if you're saved tonight? You know what you look like and act like, or you're supposed to be looking like and acting like? What are you supposed to be acting like?
Happy.
Happy, Gloria says. How about crazy?
Go ahead.
Okay, I do a good job there. I don't have to act, honestly, it comes quite natural. In all honesty, yes, we would be considered the crazy ones, right? Isn't that right? To live at peace when there's mountain lions wanting to devour you at every turn. When a devil stalks you night and day and seeks to devour you, and yet you live in total peace and don't even give him time of day, as if he doesn't even exist. What about the horde that we have lived? Both the devil, demonic torment that he brings out of your past failures and sins, and all those things, we've all lived that, right? And if you're not careful, you still live. But what did Jesus do about it? Of course, you can't live it any other way, see? And if, in fact, if you really take it, see, guys, our mind, we're a new creature. Do you know that? I mean, this is drastic. But a man that's dead, that means his soul is separate from God. It's separate already. It's been that way since Adam. So we're here, let's speed it up. In our modern day, baby is conceived, comes to term, it is brought forth in this world. Its nature is evident because it immediately thinks of itself and it screams for itself. It wants attention for itself. It wants you to worship itself. And we all do a good job of that, right? That's what they call good moms and dads and grandparents and so forth. And grandparents really like to get it because it's vengeance on their children. Spoil them grandkids rotten and send them home. Let mom and dad deal with it. And they kind of went the same road before. So the turnaround's probably fair play, maybe. But the truth is guys, we're all dead in our trespasses and sins, as we've heard. Where it means we're separated from God. What's dead? What's dead? When he says we're dead, what's dead? There's many a guy walked up to Jesus. Some of them hit him. Some of them nailed him. Somebody nailed him to the cross. So forth, etc. And it just goes on and on. They actually, but they were dead to him. What's dead? Separated. And if you really think, again, come back to God is spirit, and he's what's real. Unseen, but real. But see, for a lost man, God is still not seen. He doesn't see. Therefore, his conclusion is really just not real. Not real to him. He hears things, and he can learn things all about God and different things like that. And that in itself, it doesn't have to be bad, but it doesn't mean anything good either. You might learn a lot of stuff, but never do anything with it. It will just be against his own judgment. Okay? What I'm trying to get at, though, guys, is how the soul is and how it's been since Adam. It's the empty of God. And what I'm speaking of is the mind, the heart, its desires, and its feelings. A man will desire to go to heaven, but he really doesn't desire God. If there's a heaven, he wants to get there. And the one thing he doesn't want to have any kind of punishment. And he'll try to deny hell, but there's probably a reality to it of some sort. And too many people have seen it in the Bible. And so throw out the Bible and say you don't believe in it. But the awareness that it might exist haunts a man night and day. And every man knows the only right thing for God to do is judge him in eternity. Like that. So he's separated. That's all he knows. And what do you do if you feel like something's out to get you? What do you do? Yeah, that's right, Jim. Jim says you put on your jogging shorts and away you go. You run. And notice Adam and Eve. They ate. They seen where they's at. They're separated from God. God's no longer what's real in their mind. Notice God. Now, did they know of God? Did they not even hear his voice off in the distance? But it was off in the distance to them. See, before it's never off in the distance, but now his words is something they can't understand right now. And see, what's in their mind? How would they feel about themselves? Okay, yeah, naked, ashamed, and afraid. And they're evident of the fear. They're fearing that God's coming to punish them, you know, to kill them. And they know that's what he ought to do. Now, look, here's God. Hi, guys. I'm here on time, same time of day. I'm ready for fun. Yeah, where are you? You know, and he sees them running after me. And they're crawling in the bush that he's in. And why are they missing everything? Why are they missing everything? Huh? No, you know what? Yes, I can't say the sin of disobedience wouldn't work. They're separated from God. See, God's not, the real God is not even there in their minds no more. What they've got is a God, they know God ought to do this, and the reason they really think that is that's what they'd do if they were God. Isn't it amazing? God's not like us, guys. He says, my ways is not your ways. And most of us try to interpret God, try to interpret the scriptures by the way we think. God's not that way. And you see, well, when Adam sinned, and now he's short, and he no longer retains God in his thoughts, then what's left to come in his thoughts is who? Himself. And so he interprets everything the way he would do things if he was God, because he's hearing God's voice. Where art thou? Can you see? And he runs, he hides. And notice, how wrong is he? How wrong is it? What's God coming with? And more than forgiveness, he's coming with a promise. A promise that will cure his problem. Isn't that something? A promised seed. Can you see? And who rebukes the devil? Who's out to kill us and send us to hell? And thought he won it, hands down. Satan, no, devil, right there. And God rebukes him. Because man didn't rebuke him. A man didn't choose something over something. Man's dead. Everything he's doing is wrong. You're killing yourself. And the only one there to help you was God, and you're running away from him. So what do you think everybody else is doing? The same thing, right? But the way God reached Adam is the way we must reach people, is that you have to speak like God did to him. Adam, where art thou? Then you have to get real. You know, what did you do? What's happened here? Where are you at? Why are you there? Right? And finally it gets down, you know, well, I had, you know, this woman you gave me, you know, isn't that what he said? Yeah. He said, this woman you get, see, it's all somebody else's fault. And you say, you can't face up. And what I'm hoping you're seeing, look who's retarded. Gloria, did you catch it? No, you. No, really, look who's mentally retarded here. You know, it's not God, is it? God's always got his stuff together. God knows exactly, you know, where they're at. He knows what they're needing. He's got what they need, and he brought what they need for them. Isn't that something? And here comes God with the medical bag, you might say, you know, and he's got the life expenditure, you know, and Adam, so he doesn't have to live separate. And he pursues, if you get that too, well, that's big to me. God pursued people. You know, guys, we don't even go across the street to pursue a soul if we ain't careful. Yeah, he pursued you. He sure did. And over and over and over again in Jim's personal experience. And old Montana beat them tires off, getting way over to East Mesa. I have to go see that lug over there. It took forever. And he still didn't get him until he got into a mountain. And up on the mountain, that God really just pierced his heart, and he knew God was real. Salvation was real. And look at what he was doing all the time. He was living like what? Like a crazy person. He was running from everything that helped him. Wasn't he? Absolutely. And believing bad things about God. Believing everything wasn't true. Can you see? And you know, so when you think of it, who's the lunatic here? It's us. Well, it was us, but not no more. And that's what's really sweet. See, now through Jesus, we have intimacy with God and His words. And so what happens is that in the reception of His words coming in our minds, and all of a sudden we have thoughts of Him. And that inspires desires of Him. And with this, the feelings reach out and they can actually feel Him. And notice what's the evidence of Him. What's the evidence? Now catch this, guys. Please see, we got a man, he's been dead. And his body worked, but his soul lived for that body. That's the most it could get out of it. And so it's running for you, living for you. It's ashamed of where it's got. Thought he was smarter than that, and all those things probably. Scared, terrified, believing everything wrong. He's believing everything wrong toward God. And yet God pursues, keeps coming, and then he throws out all the excuses. I mean, he hides, he runs, and so forth. And then he blames and accuses. And it's funny, both blame and accuses goes first from Adam to Eve. But literally, it's from Adam to Eve. And when he's blaming Eve, Adam's doing this. He's blaming Eve, and then he turns it on God. It's that woman you gave me that caused all this. Has he faced anything? How's his mental condition? Still retarded. He ain't got a clue what's really real, does he? He doesn't have really a clue what's really happened to him. What really happened to him. See, and he believes it's always something else. And notice that's what the person you're talking to tomorrow, that's exactly what they live. And does everybody see it? Now notice the pursuit of God, the continuance of God, and then speaking those words of God. Now God is spirit, right? So we have the Spirit of God, but how do you see it? How do you see God? Thank you, Rosemary. Rosemary's got it. You see Him through the words. How can anybody see Him at work? How can anybody see Him? He's got to see Him through the words of God that somebody's got to be telling Him. That somebody's supposed to be you. Amen. See? And guys, we're supposed to be telling to other people so they can hear what God really is. See, they've got their own retarded versions. You ever realize how retarded today some of them is? I mean, all of them. As any other religion in the world, including denominations or anything else, has a God that comes and loves the criminal and takes away through the righteous Son the criminal's crimes. Is there any God like our God? No. You can't make it up. You couldn't have dreamed it up. There's no way in the world, you know. People say, well, Butch, how'd you come across? I found him. You know, he was already that way long before I ever found him. I could have never created a God like the God that's real. There is no God like our God that blots out our iniquities. Every other God, you just think about it. Think about the Baptist God. You think about it. They got condemnation, judgment, and honestly, pain, punishment, and their own hatred all toward your soul. Our God comes and delivers you from all that and all the sin and the crime and does it at the cost of Himself. Now that's retarded. It is to the lost man, but it's the only way that you could have ever been saved. Now when you really start thinking about it, how else could you ever be right with God? You start formulating and thinking that thing through, that you'll come down to one conclusion. Only God could ever save us. I love what old Gerald Hickman said one time, so sincere in one early morning. He got up and he says, you know, if God don't save me, there's no way in the world I could ever been saved. And you know, you have to think about what he just said. The realism that he meant behind it. You know, this wasn't just words of some big wild man, but he was big and wild and all those things. But boy, he was a man that really knew God. And the only thing he knew of God concerning himself is he didn't understand how come or why or anything else, but God got in the dirt and saved him. And then is there any difference between him and our experience? There's not. There's no God like ours. Because the world, in order to know our God, has to hear, has to have the hearing of his word. Faith comes by hearing. So let's walk it back through. There's an evidence, though, that I want us to get. God is what? Spirit. Now, God is what? Love. What do you know when you've met God? When God has spoken, his words come in. And by the way, what immediately, as the day progressed, we could say, God reveals, remember, let's just walk it through that he's experienced. So what we've had is the sin. Then we've had their awareness of their sin. And then their self-reaction to it. And what they're running, rebelling, and everything they're thinking of God being totally opposite of what God is, was, or was doing. And that's exactly what every person lives. He's fleeing the only one that could help him, and he's so stupid because everywhere he turns, God's there. I mean, you know, and then stupid about, you know, then, but he's got to blame something. See, somebody else, see, if I blame somebody else, then God will have to get them instead of me. Can you see? But notice, who's the only one thinking that? Yeah, the criminal. You right? It's not God. God didn't think that way. You blame somebody, you know, matter of fact, you make yourself double the criminal. Can you see? Because God don't want anybody blamed. He wants you delivered. Amen? Did you catch that? God doesn't want anybody blamed. He wants somebody delivered. And here's the nature of man according to Scripture and according to the Apostle Paul. But every man either blames, accuses, or excuse themselves. Making excuses. Oh, I didn't mean to do it. Well, my daddy did this to me, and that's why I turned out this way. You know, or my dad was a drunk and all the time, so that's why I'm this way. And they think, well, that'll get me off, and I go before God. God will understand, and God will let me in. Man, they're blowing smoke. They're broke. They're retarded. They need to see God. They need to experience God. And then with the experience and the Spirit of God, when He came, they kept calling. Then what do you suppose happens? What happens? Let's take it down. Adam blames Eve. What does Eve do? Huh? Okay. Well, she tries, you know, she kind of takes it to the serpent, right? She takes it to the serpent, and it's still yet at that point in time, she sees in that cunning, beautiful lie. But she puts the blame, it's this serpent you put here. So who's really the fault of everybody's faults? That's what we really want to believe. Now, how retarded is that? Isn't it? Now, think it on through. Let's go on through. So here's God spoke his words, and by the way, at this point, you'd have to say has subdued. He's made them face reality. And the reality, one is, no matter who they blame, they're still there guilty. No matter what they say about each other, do to each other, willing to feed each other to the lions, so to speak, to get themselves off the hook, that none of that works. They ain't off the hook. And you know what's amazing? God ain't left. You know what that means? They ain't gone to hell yet. What does that mean? Well, no. At this point, we're in the midst of conversion, hopefully. Okay, at this point, what would that mean? Okay, hope, isn't it? Yeah, there's still hope. Yes, you bet. And guys, that's what you need to see every time you're talking to one of these rebellious, thick-headed like me persons that running, playing all the game, think they know something. Then you got to understand. Say it again, Anthony.
Still a chance.
There's still a chance. There's still a hope for the soul. I ain't dead in hell. And you see, and God's still speaking through you. There's still a chance. And when you remember that, guys, you may have lost people. Some may be Carson or whatever else. You may have talked to them. You may have talked to maybe you're blue in the face and you're fed up. And I really do caution you. Why don't you talk to somebody that wants to hear you? That might help a whole lot. But at the same time, don't give up. If you got a heart for them, man, you keep pounding. And you just keep pounding. You keep bringing it. You keep bringing it. And because what it does, if nothing else, it still provides hope for them as long as they're still in that body. If you're not bringing it, there's no hope for them. Chances are God will take them to their final doom. And there's hope for someone. God wouldn't destroy cities over there was hope. God said for Sodom and Gomorrah, if there was only a handful of believe, that he'd save it. I forgot what that number was finally. Got down. 10? Yeah, it's about 10. Yeah, if 10 out of a multitude, the goodness sakes, that was where the populace gathered and everything. That's where all the economy was, money, the thrill of the day. So everybody lived there. And he said if there's only 10 that believe. Why? Because that 10 could give everybody else hope to be saved. 10 that believers, 10 that believed and spoke God to someone else. So guys, what are we hearing and seeing right now? What are we hearing and seeing? You're worried. We've really covered a lot right now. Now let me push through the latter point because this is the point of points. When Adam, here's his experience, Adam and Eve. God hasn't thrown them in hell. All the things they said and thought, they've ran, they've hid, they've lived out every rebellious act to be possible. And then God rebukes Satan, goes over the consequences, beginning with Satan, and then Adam, and then Eve. For what it's worth, I think Eve got the worst of it. I don't even know if that's true, but
Pain and childbirth.
yeah, pain and childbirth. I mean, that by itself, and everything goes with that. Everything that goes with it. And I think it's also a two-edged sword because I think it comes back and gets the man too. There's some men in here going, yeah. I said, what do you mean, two-edged sword, man? We got the whole blade, man. Yeah. Oh, guys, isn't it amazing, though? And you look at the human relationship. You look at the elements that's involved with Adam and Eve now. And by the way, there is things that's said. And guys, I'd like to say I knew and could just say, hey, it's this way, it's that way. And I know tons that do that. I can't do that unless I know it's that way. You understand what I'm saying? But I really am convinced that there's a seed of enmity that is there between the man and the woman. It's said as if it's towards Satan, and that's the way most people try to make it, between Satan and man. Satan already hated man. He hated him with a passion. But I think there is something where we always butt heads, men and women. And I think the reason that maybe one of the grandest reasons that's there is that, guys, there's a tendency we want to make our heaven on earth. We want to make our relationship between like a husband and a wife, and it should be the most nearest to God that you could ever ask for. It really should be. But the honest truth is, if you start thinking this is heaven, you'll miss God all over the place. And there's that enmity that's going to be there that is never the perfect place, okay? It's never perfect. Every relationship's tested and tried and twisted, and then you go through ups and downs, and you're happy and you get crushed, and you're heading to glorification, and everything will be okay? Because it's just not heaven here, okay? And I think there's a lot of other things that has that in it too. Even the earth, the earth is cursed. It has thorns. There's nothing, everything that's got a beauty to it has a painful side to it. So, anyway, I think God's really done that we'd always look beyond what we're seeing right here and look to Him. We'll always be looking to Him. That's my personal opinion anyway, at least.
You said God did not condemn Adam and Eve.
No, they're condemned. I mean, the consequences that are separated from Him forever. That's where they're at. I mean, they're gone to hell. And the only thing they've got is whatever He's provided in the days of grace. Does that make sense? And what He's provided is this hour today. God's still saving Adam. You're a part of it. I am a part of it. Yeah, no, that's really true. He's still saving Adam. He's never quit from generation to generation. We're all relatives of Adam. So, God saved us, and then we become sons of God. Transforms us. See, that's why, honestly, the fall of man, the death of man, the separation of man becomes so essential, because if you'll die with Christ, buried with Christ, and all that's wrong with you is put away, and anything that's right is all in Jesus, and you're raised in Jesus, and you're all right. And you're gone to heaven. Isn't that something? What'd you say, Glenn? Son of God. Yeah, that's right. You're raised son of God. You ever think of yourself as son of God? Well, you might want to start raising your sights a little bit, guys. By the way, anybody think about going to heaven? Or how many of us think so much about getting by? Or to the next, maybe a happier moment? We try to create something out there, and okay, we'll look forward to that. We'll get a vacation, we'll get something and look forward. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that, when you get there, you'll find way too, It'll never be heaven. Because you start planning on heaven, and you'll find it. You'll find you'll be there. And I really do believe we as a church needs to really lift our sights a lot more than we have right now. And I think it'll help us to motivate others to come with us. I really do. And when you start really seeing where you're going, and where you're confident of where you're going, where this is going to take us, I think you'll be more persuasive than you've ever been in the souls of men. Okay, so, yeah.
Not to get off the subject thing, but can I ask the difference between the Spirit and the Holy Ghost?
No, and that's a perfectly legitimate question. It's really a matter of language and translation and periods of time. Long ago, they called it, especially England in the 16th century, they referred to what we refer to now, spirit, as a ghost. As a ghost. And really, probably you think, I grew up, we had a cartoon that you go to the movies back then. Well, wait a minute, I better not tell that. But anyway, to get to go to a movie was a big thing. How about that? Okay. And so, and at the movies, they always would have a few minutes, usually it was pretty long minutes, 20, 30 minutes of cartoons. A few news announcements, any major news that took place when the reel was made, they'd have some of them up. And boy, they have a big old bag of popcorn, man, usually on to heaven, And probably the whole thing cost maybe 25 cents for the whole thing, maybe even cheaper than that. But, back then, though, it was 25 cents was like $100. It's not that bad, but anyway, it's just amazing, but they'd have the cartoon known as Casper the Ghost. You've heard me refer to that a lot. But I love that kind of cartoon, and it's still around. Every once in a while, I come across hearing something about Casper the Ghost. Woody Woodpecker, have you ever heard of that? One of my favorite hunting expressions are when I've gone with some of the guys is calling somebody a packerwood. Packerwood. Packing on wood. Anyway, if you've seen any of those, you might get the idea that, the ghost concept has been around a long time. The one thing about a ghost, though, was they were friendly. And the fellow that authored that whole concept of Casper the Ghost, he was the friendly ghost. And everybody was scared to death of him. And you know, the friendly ghost that's really real, yeah, it is the Holy Spirit. And everybody's scared of him, running from him. And he's the only friend you got. He's doing everything he can, you know, get you to heaven. You know, it's amazing. Again, you know, our perception and how really kind of retarded we are. So anyway, and that's, the words are synonymous. It's just used to express something that's real, that really exists, but is unsealable. And with Casper, you could see a little white sheet or cloud, you know, and then it could go right through trees. It wasn't bound by physical things. Casper the ghost. Pretty neat, wasn't it? The Holy Ghost, right? Yeah. What did I say? Somebody translate that. Holy Ghost. The Holy Spirit. What did I say there?
Unseen, but real.
Complete, unseen, real. Okay, you're defining spirit. What's holy though? I'm saying Holy Spirit. See, there's a lot of spirits, so let's talk about the Holy Spirit. Okay, complete. It's God's. It's set aside of God. So God, it's God's Spirit. And it's totally complete, in need of nothing outside of itself. It's totally self-contained, self-evident. You know, there's nothing outside of it. In the same definition, though, God is Spirit. God is love. So let's go back to Adam. I want to get this scene in. I hope you go with me. All right, have you been going with me? I've been going back to this luscious little garden that kind of lays in between the mountain ranges, you know. And my goodness, it was so beautiful in its day. And it's turned into a weed patch in the last hour or so, because Adam and Eve has sinned and rebelled. And now we got where the roses once all grew, thorns and thistles and all kinds of painful things. Rocks and boulders all of a sudden appear to stub your feet on, and everything's got some kind of pain in it. And then we notice the enmity right off with Adam and Eve. Notice they can't even get through a discussion with God without fighting. Blame it. See, being ugly. Really what it is. So God takes them and puts up with it, bears it all, gets on through all that discussion, and then he deals with old Satan. And then he deals with them and tells them the consequences of what it's going to cause you to live with. Man's going to have to live with the sweat of the brow in particular, and he's going to earn everything he gets by that sweat of the brow. The woman is going to go through pain now in childbearing. And the way it's expressed in verbal action, and I do believe it to be very true, is that she will from here on go through pain in childbirth, as if there was all kinds of childbirthing before, that she didn't go through pain. Now you do whatever you want to with it, I'm just telling you what the language says. Okay? And it really does say that. So anyway, and if you come back and say, well, Cain and Abel, I'm sure that's all just as correct as can be, but it didn't change anything. Cain and Abel, the firstborn, and all that, you know, it doesn't change anything. You know, they had all been born without pain. Make you think, oh, Cain really missed a true boat, didn't he? He didn't. So, okay, yeah, we got down to there. Yeah, working on the final run. Okay, so where we have Adam and Eve. So through our story tonight, what have we seen live? Okay, and through our story, let's get it correct, we're supposed to be the representatives of God. Or at the least, the temple of God that God's speaking out of to Adam and Eve. Right? And so we've moved our temple to where they're at. We've pursued them. They were running. Right? We've spoke and called to them. And not just once, but at least 3 times. It means completeness. Kept it up, kept it up, kept it up. And finally, got them in the halted stage to face up and to deal with what's happened here. To really bring them to what's really real. Wouldn't that be correct? All right. So we've got them to have to face up to a little reality. Now, is that fun for someone? Because what do you have to admit in some of that reality? Yeah, that we've sinned, that we're wrong. Do we like telling anybody what we've done or that we've done anything wrong? If there's anything wrong with us at all? Matter of fact, what would be our tendency to do with all that? To hide it, to blame somebody else, cover it over, make it something and cover it. Well, I go to church, so I'm okay. And guess what? We're going to blow off some fig leaves. We got people that they knit up a fig leaf in a hurry and cover themselves, and we walk right by them. And I've heard this several times, and I'm really trying to address this. And boy, guys, listen, I don't want to offend anybody. Guys, we just got to learn, and to learn, you got to admit we make some mistakes, and it's okay. It's okay to make it, but let's just don't keep living that. Or to live a mistake, something that's false. To live something that's false, that it's all right. I had one lady, very precious lady, love her to death, and I got in on a testimony, and that's one thing I really love, and love being here on Thursday night, is a lot of times I get to hear something here and there and learn myself and how I can improve my approach to things. But I noticed a lady was told by another lady that she was talking to that she lived at a great distance from our church, and that her coming to our church isn't a possibility, and how easily that was believed. And of course, there was added to that is, hey, I'm okay. I've got God, and there's churches down there. I've gone to this church, and this and that and that. Why would somebody come from Tonopah, up in old Anthony out there? Why does someone come like Dave and Julie from, I don't know what that would be. I can almost be at Patchy Lake fishing, before I can get to Dave and Julie's place. And then, north, there's Chris, where are you guys at? Almost on the banks of Lake Pleasant. Okay. And hung off of, so anyway, kind of the point is we got people that comes from all over, and I mean, if you think about it, they're actually some of the most faithful, when you talk about faithfulness, that, remember that fight of Den Wildcats to get here. And I mean, you let a dust storm come out, they're here. It's always those 100 miles away that are going through whatever it takes to get here, it seems like. And I wonder, have you wondered, what's the drive? What's the force? Why would they do that? And why would we not think, okay, why? Okay, their faith, yeah. Well, and I love that. What she said by saying her faith is, it's just where God's real. It's where God is really real. It's not that he isn't real out there, but when they get here, they experience God. And then they did, no other place will do. They're going to get here to where they experience God. Dave, another one. I took that bicycle, God knows where, up there. I don't want to find out either. It's just been amazing. By the way, you didn't get my car. I need to ride it on the way down. And jets up and comes to church, and the miracles, and of course this is true for everybody. Everybody once or later becomes kind of a miracle in themselves. But, you stop and think about why would we do that? Why did we come? And by the way, if we lived only a block away, why do we go through what we have to go through? Man, there's kids, there's demons, there's everything else. Why would we do it to get here? Honestly, because we experience God here. And it's through hearing real words of him. And when we hear real words of him, man, this is where you got to be. And what my point is that it doesn't matter if you're in Tonopah or where you're at, guys, people want to come. And we got people all over Mexico that would give anything if they could be here in our Sunday service. They really would. Just go out there, be a part of you, to hear and to know the God that we almost take for granted. yeah, we gotta change our thinking. And we gotta help our members change their thinking. When somebody starts telling us, oh, I live too far, you can say, well, how far is far? And then tell them about, those that come from Maricopa. Tell them that, distance isn't the problem. It's what you find when you get there. And when you find when you get there and that becomes more valuable, the distance will go away and like nothing. And that's been biblically and historically true all the time. Beth?
I would like to mention how far Jesus walked for us.
Yeah, how far Jesus walked for us. We get to drive a car with air conditioning. And again, their climate was the same as ours.
In sandals at that, sandals on.
Yeah, sandals at that. Yeah, didn't have good tread, huh? Okay. That's something to remember. Okay, guys, I do want to, Adam and Eve setting, we're in the garden. Where the garden's turned colors. It's things is all down. We have a gospel though that's come from us. And it's really God that we've got to experience. It's in us. And so we have spoken, we've got them aware, we've walked them through, they've done their blaming, accusing, excusing, probably used the distance thing, don't tell them what else. But finally, we get them to the point that now we get to tell them about what is. This is where you're at. You're separated from God. You die here, it's hellfire and justice of God for an eternity. That's no joke. You call on his name and he'll deliver you because you see, here's what he's brought us. And then you go into Jesus, his innocence, his atoning death, and the blood life that is given for them. And boy, you grab a hold of this person. He's a real person. Jesus, you call on him and what he's lived already for you to save you, you shall be saved. And see, notice how I kind of toughened up there even in my facial expression. Man, I want somebody to know this is no joke. You'll be saved. You may not want to be saved. You may want to go to heaven, which is ridiculous. We all know that. But you know what? They're going to be saved because God said it. Yeah. And if I can't be that confident with it, there's no way I can ask them to be that confident with it. You call on his name, thy shall be saved. Right? Now, what am I bringing? I think back. God is spirit. We brought God. Here's God. He's spoken now. So forth, etc. But how would you? What's happening? What's taking place? I thought I heard it. What? Carlos is that? My goodness, Carlos, we're gonna get you a diploma and a doctorate degree here. My goodness, no sir. And the word is an answer. But he says, love. What's being brought? What they find out? What did Adam and Eve find out the whole time? What? Now, God was what? When they come calling, why was he calling them? To torment them? No, God was, see, now they get the picture. Now, all of a sudden, they're seeing the whole thing. When they see that their sins are going to be paid for, that he brought the promise of a lamb that would take away the sins, that would shed his blood for them. Man, all of a sudden, they're convinced, wow, I got God again. I'm not separated no more. Man, God never separated. He's still loving me. Man, he's right here loving me. Can you see that? Guys, what then? Man, there's salvation. There's deliverance right there. My goodness, God. And you're back in intimacy. Notice that? And behold, what was there dead, separated? Behold, all that's passed away. And now everything's new. Look, they're loving God. And I think they're loving God like they never loved him before. Because they never loved him before as a Savior. Excuse me. Isn't that true? So can you see what they find out? How much of their life was in error? Well, ever since they sinned, wasn't it? So for us, though, we are born dead in sin. Okay, so from the one born in sin, how much of our lives are in error? The whole to God's truth. All it's ever done is miss God. Isn't that right? But what was God doing through it all? Yes, he was just loving us. But what did we think he was doing? Out to punish us, or judge us. What? He can't wait to get his hands on you. You felt like you had to run, duck, and jump, and hopefully avoid him at every turn. Isn't that right? I see people go by church and like I want to got the right back, What's that, brother? Yeah, running into the bush, yeah. No, that's it. And in a sense, guys, it is plumb comical, but it's you and I that's the characters here. And the sweet thing, though, is that we've moved from the stage to stage. And guys, if you think about it, we were the ones running, living a lie. And honestly, we were living a lie, see? And then everything we thought about God was totally wrong. Everything we were thinking about him was wrong. And he was loving us. He had already provided what would save us. He came after us, not us coming after him. He's pursued us and overcome every one of our excuses. Isn't that something? Every one of us blaming somebody else. All of a sudden, somebody else don't matter no more. And notice, what do you have when that happens? When nobody else matters, what does that mean that's happened between you and God? Yeah, no, you don't matter anymore. I'm talking about your sin. Your sin's not what's going to matter to God no more. What's that mean? Forgiveness, doesn't it? Well, if that's true, then why do you want to hold on to somebody else's garbage? And you say, you really don't. And I mean, you really don't, but it's not because you're doing anything. You just, because it's real. Oh, you dropped theirs too. He's dropped yours, you dropped theirs. It's just, it's, and it's not something that we righteously go do. I want to forgive you. You mess up again. So you forgive me? No, that's a joke. See, real and truth, guys, that's what counts. Now, I just hope you know, the way you always know God's been there is that you're sitting in a puddle of love. That's the honest truth. That's all Adam and Eve right there. God just loved them. And you see this so evident. What do they do after this event? This event from then on. Y'all know? Come on, somebody. Yes, we get into the story of Cain and Abel, but tell me about believing him. What did they do? Okay, there we go. But they had to do something before they could get the sacrifice. Yeah, build an altar. Can you see? And then, that altar is like the church or the physical building. It's the physical aspect that Jesus is being offered on, or the message of Jesus being offered on. Yes, it is. It's the place of assembly. And by the way, when Abraham sent out, remember, he put them in all positions and places of intersections and travel, where everybody had to come by. They had to come by an altar and get the message of Jesus. Isn't that sweet? Isn't it great how God loves us? Guys, he's got 1,000 people out there in front of you every day that he will reach right through you to see them saved. We just need to see it his way. Pursue it his way. And know that love will always be the evidence of real faith. Really will. God is spirit, and you have the spirit. God's love will be there all over. Any questions, anybody? Good tonight? Learning? Great? Okay. Well, I've got a whole bunch of these coming. Just to show us different aspects. Now tonight, what would be our theme? What would we say would be the major part? Chris, tell me. What would you say? Any part? Just
God is spirit, and His spirit is love. His word is, anyways, His word is the reality.
Okay, you bet, honey, but that's big. The other thing too, doesn't God kind of leave the unclassified files, so to speak, and become more real? Hadn't He become more real to you? Look at, I mean, He's personally perceived you. There's nothing I've talked about tonight that didn't happen to you. You and God's been having this on relationship that you acting like you didn't even know was going on. Isn't that great? Would it be fun to find out you had an affair your whole life? The sad part of it, you didn't know it was going on for so much of it. Missing your love affair. Becky, was that you?
Well, I just, last night, there was something that goes right along with this. You were talking about how John get caught up, like, just like looking and seeing what was going on. And then it had something right, but it was for us. He was there seeing it, Jesus experienced. But he would just like stop and just get so, just be all in the moment, and they would say, they got to show John Wright. So John Wright.
Yeah.
And that wasn't for him, it was for us.
Yes, for
And
us.
that has to go right along with tonight.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You know, and that, you know, that is so big, Becky. It touches my heart where God, through an angel, tells John to write. That the writing is totally for us. Notice John is so taken. I mean, he's having the field day. And he's so taken that it's not doing his job. Does that make sense? Yeah, he's so involved. And notice all that it's doing for him, which is obviously wonderful, but it's God that's intending that to do that same wonders that it's doing to John for all of us. And that's just precious, isn't it? And guys, we should have that same desire in what's been spoken to us about Christ to speak Him to somebody else. And we might want to start reminding each other, Seal, how you doing today? Just speak. Speak to somebody, you know. Just tell somebody else. Reach. As the world be saved. Let's, if anyone else have anything tonight? Yes.
What classes are given for like a scenario, how you walk up to somebody's house and approach them?
Okay.
Now, what do you think will make it work
Where are you?
for them?
No, that's what you'd say to them. Hey, where are you?
Wow.
We just walked up to Adam and Eve's house in the garden, didn't we? Tonight. We said, no. Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, I think it was retarded. I just stay away from that side of it. Okay. You think, that's so hard. But no, honey, if you really think about it, what did we do tonight? We went to the house of Adam and Eve, did we not? And you know, maybe we see them outside in the yard or whatever, but we had to pursue them. And the only reason why they was in the yard is they're trying to get away from us. You know, just like they did God. But the question is, well, hey, where are you? And Roger.
Just, you know, it's really stating, you know, like, where are you at with God?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've had the conversations, people tell me, oh, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, really? But where are you at with God? And do you know where God's at with you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's really the question that God's asking them to say, listen, man, where are you? And, you know, do you know where I'm at with you? Because everything they're living is opposite really what God was at for them.
Absolutely. And then the week before, guys, let's just take that, because Pat's question is very good, you know, it really is. It's excellent, you know. But Jesus sat like thus on the side of the well, tired and weary to the bone. And this woman comes up and he says, oh, give me the drink. And she says, oh, how is this a Jew being a man? But ask of a Samaritan, a woman, a drink of water. So she's all thinking of this, and she's going over to the well to draw her water. And Jesus says, if you knew who I am, you'd ask of me, and I'd give you water that you'd never thirst again. But what took place? What do you say, people? What did he do? You might want to study with it, because I mean, that's what we do here. We need to intersect their lives. You know, we need to interrupt their routines. And then we need to tell them we got something so special that they just had what we had. My goodness, it brought their boat for eternity. Yeah. I don't know, that's good terminology. But
I just, with the young couple next door to me, young girl and several times we talked about things.
Mhm.
It's just like, how do I bring it up? How do I ask them?
And, you know, I wouldn't even worry about that, I'd just get your body over there. Well, that's all right, you might get on the other side of the fence, that fence serves as a barrier, you know, and it might be a kind of protection both ways. Yeah, yeah, but, you know, no, I think, I would try to see that fence as an enemy, more or less.
Well, I have a hard time getting around.
Yeah, but the harder time is gonna get them around
Yeah.
this side of the fence. You know, that's what the point is. And guys, what God's gonna get us there, and he's doing this. Just like Pat, you guys pray for Pat right now, everybody just in your heart. No, that she can really, really speak to these people and bring them to church and release, okay? And see them people want to come to at least to serve. You know, we start out there, And if you want to, go ahead and just say, Lord God, save them people, because that's what it's all about, seeing saved. We don't need people to come to church, but they need it. Pray for the back.
She can always ask someone to meet her there and go with her. I had that same, like, year almost, going on a Saturday reach out. And what I said was, I'll just wait, I'll see what you guys do. And no sooner than we got to that first door, the Holy Spirit just took over and gives you the words. And I mean, you know what it takes, you know what it is that saved us, and the Holy Spirit will work through you. You know, you can always just have someone else go with you.
You will.
But if you come on Thursday nights, you can go out and you can just kind of practice it there, use it there.
And listen to somebody else.
Yeah, that's, guys, don't, and again, I just don't want you to worry about going and doing anything.
I'm sorry.
But no, but Pat's illustration right there is just excellent, because see, and I love this, because Pat was moved. You understand? She brought the thought of a neighbor that she's been talking to, has had some conversations with. Now, how do I approach him about God? They probably talked about birds and tree or something, but, or your puppy. Now let's move. How do we talk about God? How do we get it to the next level here? And that's what I'm trying to show us. It's just like God. He comes in there and says, hey, Adam, where are you? Where are you? And boy, Roger points out, and that's an excellent way to begin with anybody. Where are you and with the Lord? Because man, I just really love it. You're my neighbor, and it'd be a tragedy if I lived here by you and you passed away one day and miss out on what I know to be real. I just want you to get to know what I know to be real. Why don't you come on to church with me? Hey, listen, I'll buy you dinner or breakfast over at the church. Yes, man, we got to get this stuff rocking. We got to start thinking a little more and understand that every aspect of us ought to be given to winning. It should be, and convincing, bringing them across. I just think we could be a lot better at what we do sometimes. And we will get there. So God's working on it. We will get there. Anything else? If not, let's bow for a quick prayer. Ron, would you mind closing?
Lord, we just want to thank you for the words that's been passed along this evening. That we can pass along this information that we've learned today. Just pass it on to not only each other, but to the lost world and bring them to you, Lord, so they can be saved just like us. So we just want to thank you for everything you provide for us on a daily basis. Just be grateful and thankful for all that you do. In your son's name, amen.
Amen.